Imagine this fashion week in Paris. Champagne flutes clinking in the hands of the elite, velvet ropes and flashing lights. Every well-known star is present. They're taking pictures. Editors are making notes. You know who's missing, though? Meghan Markle. Yes, there are no front-row seats to be seen. Not a single mention of her name on any invitation lists. And that quiet wasn't a coincidence. It's like playing high-stakes poker with clothes, sequins and silk. It all comes down to power dynamics, visibility, and seating arrangements. Additionally, Meghan was told to leave the table in a very subtle yet cruel manner. Let's take a moment to go back in time. Whether Meghan looks well in high-end clothing is not the point of this. Everyone is aware that she does. Clean royal chic is her style. In the past, she had enormous impact. However, something changed recently behind the scenes. The same company that pioneered fashions like wildfire, Balenciaga, abandoned her. Not just them either. Silently, other A-list properties followed. Nothing, no shade, no drama. Furthermore, nothing is loud in this industry. It's not as simple as saying, oh, maybe she didn't want to go. The PR spin is that. She was, in fact, iced out. According to one report, her name appeared on the list before disappearing. Designers took a look at it and immediately replied, nah, not this season. Inquiries were not even answered by some PR representatives. We're full line, which in fashion terms is basically a diplomatic middle finger, was the usual response from others. However, why? Why now? This is not an accident. Only when the stakes are enormous and nobody wants to get their hands dirty does this kind of exile or quiet campaign occur. And whether she realized it or not, Meghan entered a minefield. Here are the opinions of insiders. Like every other power circle, the fashion industry is obsessed with control. Furthermore, Meghan is erratic. It's a lawsuit one week, a podcast the next, and then a Netflix doc. She produces heat. However, heat isn't necessarily a good thing for premium companies. They desire control, subtlety, and mystique. The image of Meghan has become a lightning rod. Too many headlines, too many opinions. Additionally, as your name begins to be shortened for brands retreat from controversy, even if it wasn't your fault. Consider it this way. A fashion house is what you are. You spend $10 million on a performance. You want your collection, models, and brand narrative to be the center of attention. However, every headline becomes a royal soap opera when Meghan enters the picture. Drama is all that matters, not the attire or the craftsmanship. And that kind of noise turns into a problem for a business that depends on perception to survive. This is when the darkness begins. According to some insiders, brands weren't the only ones making these decisions. There is rumored to be pressure from above. It's possible that one legacy house with strong ties to monarchy and image preservation murmured the first no, and everyone else simply did the same. Because in the fashion industry, people don't want to be the only ones left open when one gatekeeper closes the entrance. Meghan is not stupid either. She most likely anticipated this. After the freeze became apparent, her team apparently rushed to try to flip the narrative. They wanted it to appear as though she was declining to go. Real talk, though, you can't turn down an invitation. This was not snobbery about fashion. It was a cold, calculating, and successful tactic. Once the darling of style pages, Meghan Markle recently received a harsh, no-words-needed rejection. And the way it was done, elegantly harsh. Just absence, no headline, no declaration. It is the most painful kind. When fashion wants you gone, it whispers rather than yells. It doesn't invite. It becomes quiet. Silence is the weapon. Just a gradual erasure with no drama or scandal. Meghan Markle was not prohibited from entering Paris. It wiped her from it. The industry also ensured that it appeared effortless. It was best put by one fashion executive. She didn't need to be placed on our blacklist. We just stopped responding to emails. That's the degree of nuance we're discussing. Don't get it wrong, though. This was not a passive action. It was executive, strategic, well-coordinated, and involved stylists, PR managers, and others. Nobody wished to be associated with the uncontrollable Duchess as a single brand. Her crew was working hard behind the scenes. In an attempt to secure even one cooperation, they contacted stylists she had previously worked with, but the responses returned lukewarm. Courteous but empty. "We're prioritizing quieter stories this season," was the straightforward response from one company representative. It was all in that one line. Noise is lethal in the fashion industry, and Omega once was the moment. Every designer wants to be in charge of their story. Their dresses should be able to speak louder than the wearers. However, when Meghan enters a room, the topic of conversation changes. The outfit is no longer important. The Duchess, the lawsuit, the royal divide, the Netflix contract, and the never-ending headlines for illusion-dealing brands are all relevant. Reality like that is poison. Fashion's kind of social death by exclusion, according to some insiders. It's also vicious, just gracefully ghosting with no public repercussions or bridges burned. Additionally, Meghan is unable to respond without coming out as suspicious or resentful because no one speaks aloud. If she raises her voice, they'll utter, "What are you discussing? You were never placed on a blacklist." She is aware, though. Everyone is aware. It is the pinnacle of power moves. Don't let them in. It was denied without ever acknowledging it. The role of royalty in this situation is also discussed, quietly but not directly. For a long time, fashion has dabbled in royalty, elegance, legacy, and control brands. Royal patrons are more interested in class than drama. And Meghan no longer matches that description with all of her headlines. Rumor has it that one house, a mainstay of traditional fashion, quietly spread the message. No invitations, no partnerships, not right now. The outcome is the same, whether royal ties are maintained or scandal is avoided. Meghan is iced. It was so clean that it was brutal. She wasn't turned away when she entered a room. She didn't even enter the room. No brand tags, no front row seats. School. Not one paparazzi photographer wore couture. Nevertheless, she was in Paris. She was present but out of sight of the cameras. That is the mechanism of exclusion. Experts can make you invisible without ever mentioning your name. This was more than just a fashion concern, though. Signals from this freeze-out are being sent much beyond the runway. Hollywood is observing. The press is observing. The investors are observing. This year, Meghan's lifestyle brand was set to debut with luxury fashion and cosmetics partnerships, but those discussions have slowed. Some brands are, in fact, reassessing. Some people are waiting for the ideal moment, which is code for watching to see if she fades or rebounds. Even executives in streaming are wary. She isn't getting big deals. No big-name interviews. The energy surrounding her has subsided, yet her presence is still there. It's not animosity. It's exhaustion. People are sick of the sideshow and the noise. Additionally, the spotlight quickly fades when the audience grows weary. Meghan has undoubtedly been undervalued in the past. The ice is deeper this time, though. Not a single brand is turning away. The entire system is putting itself on hold. Furthermore, even a pause can seem permanent in a sector that depends heavily on momentum. You're only as relevant as your last front row, goes a fashion adage. Meghan Markle's seat is freezing at the moment. This is more than just a style setback, though. It's a recalibration of reputation. The industry as a whole has been affected by the frost from Paris, and everyone is attempting to solve the same problem. Can she still be banked? According to some insiders, she was intended to be humbled by this freeze-out, which served as an unofficial check on her growing reputation. Meghan had established herself as a distinct brand, independent of the royal apparatus, Hollywood, and even Harry. Certain circles find that degree of independence unsettling, particularly when it comes from a woman who doesn't follow the rules. Furthermore, power does not yell when it perceives a threat. It permanently and silently tightens access. Nevertheless, Meghan has always excelled at one area, the pivot. She always comes back with a fresh perspective after being counted out. Netflix podcasts, Suits, and Monarchy. She has a non-linear career path. It is shaped by resistance and is reactive. Fashion houses may be afraid of this unpredictability, but it's also what makes her risky to undervalue. Now there's talk of her changing directions, eschewing the cold couture circles of Europe and gravitating toward American firms with more daring goals and less rigid customs. Consider Prabal Gurung, Ralph Lauren, and even up-and-coming eco-friendly designers who would kill for her fame. Meghan still has a large following in the United States. Additionally, American fashion thrives on reinvention, in contrast to its European cousin. Where you're going is more important to them than where you've been. Now, however, the stakes are higher. She runs the risk of actually fading if she makes a mistake, introduces a line of products that fails, or takes a step back without a plan. That's the harsh reality of fame. Nobody wants to be remembered as a headline from 3 seasons ago, and silence is either a strategy or a slow death. However, there is a perception that Meghan is not finished, particularly among those who have collaborated with her. She was a chess player with excellent fashion sense, according to one former stylist. She takes her time. She studies. She watches for the ideal moment. She moves with purpose as well. The same houses that turn their backs on her might eventually want to work together if she establishes her own fashion company as a serious, high-end contender that has the potential to fundamentally alter the narrative rather than as a side project. When importance comes back, things change that quickly. The decisive factor will be public opinion, not the palace gossip, not the fashion insiders. If viewers continue to click, share, and observe, the brands will return with a vengeance. When there's a profit to be made, they always do. Fashion loyalty is a fantasy. The only religion is relevance. Meghan is now familiar with this game. The quiet surrounding her is nothing new. She has witnessed it previously in meeting rooms with phony grins, in palace hallways, and in tabloids. She is adept at breaking that silence, though. With presence, not with noise. An appropriate glance. A headline that she controls. A return without requesting permission. What will happen to her next? Well, perhaps she makes something herself. A media company, a lifestyle empire, and a new fashion label on her own terms. Or perhaps she waits for the frost to melt and everyone else to settle in. In any case, if history has taught us anything about Meghan Markle, it is this. She's never absent for very long. She constructs new doors when the old ones close. Additionally, when the fashion industry, when she eventually understands what it pushed away, she could not even respond to the